To ensure fish farmers use appropriate inputs for their different climatic zones, Farm Africa and World Fish set up a feed versus strain experiment aimed at comparing the response of different strains of tilapia to locally manufactured and imported feeds in two climatic zones, Kisumu, which is warmer, and Karatina, which is a cooler region. The experiment, which is a first of its kind in large scale in Kenya, began on 10th July 2017 and ended in February 2018. It was conducted in two regions, with one site with an average water temperature of 28 degrees Celsius, which is Kisumu, and the other in an area with 20 degrees Celsius, which is Karatina. The process involved stocking 100 fingerlings from 3 hatcheries in 3 meter by 2 meter harper nets, feeding them with 4 types of feed, 2 local and 2 imported. This was replicated in 3 ponds, resulting in 48 harper nets in each site, a total of 96 harpers. Feeding was done daily, and other parameters, which included fish weight, length, dissolved oxygen, temperature, pH, ammonia, and water conducivity, were collected and recorded on a daily and weekly basis. Once the fish hit the 20-gram mark, the number of fish was reduced to 18 fish per harper, which is 3 fish per square meter, and grown for a total of 7 months. In the absence of a feeding table for local feeds, it was decided in the design to use standardized percentage of body weight to be fed to the fish. The preliminary findings were released during a farmers' field day in Karatina University on 27th February 2018 and in Kisumu on 2nd March 2018, whereby fish farmers and other key aquaculture stakeholders attended. This was a great opportunity for farmers to know the difference between marsh and pelleted feed. Since there are many variables to consider, there was also the need for scientific analysis of the data, which will be published and presented on a platform in Kenya.
The experiment that we are setting up, which you can see behind me, is basically to compare the growth and performance of different tilapia strains under application of different feeds. So we have chosen 3 different tilapia strains and compare the growth in terms of productivity and also profitability by using 4 different feeds, 2 locally produced feeds and 2 imported feeds. And where we expect a comparison between the performance of those species under different feeds, and we've set up the same experiment not only here in Karatina but also in Kisumu in Western Kenya. So Western Kenya has a warmer climate than here on high altitude in Karatina. So in addition to just comparing the performance of strains under different feeds, we are also aiming at comparing the growth and performance between 2 different climates, cold or cooler climate and the warmer climate, to see also the impact of temperature.
For the routine activities, we have the water quality, and we normally take dissolved oxygen and temperature daily. So for the dissolved oxygen and temperature, we take them at both experimental units, and we have the 3 experimental units, and we normally divide ourselves so that each person who is participating in this project takes a single day in taking the water quality.
We usually conduct daily activities, that is feed preparation and feeding. In feed preparation, we weigh the feeds for each upper based on their weight, and in the feeding, we feed thrice a day, 9:30 a.m., 12:30 p.m. and 4 p.m.
The general activity on a weekly basis is whereby Mondays and Tuesdays we normally do the routine activities where they have to clear the site, make sure that the dikes are well trimmed, make sure that the nets are covered. Then they keep feeding the fish every time as scheduled under our program. Then on Wednesdays we spend a lot of time preparing for the Thursdays when we normally have the sampling, where we normally do weights of each and every harpnet whenever we do the sampling. Then after doing that, Thursdays and Fridays, then on Saturdays we have to put all the data together. Then we cross-check on all the measurements that we have. Then we put it in an Excel sheet. We prepare it very well. Then on Sunday we send the whole information, all the data that we've already collected, to Farm Africa and Seven.
So far, as I said, we are happy with the progress, and we will just continue with the guidance and support that we've provided so far, so that the key team is being provided with the most important information and guidance to do the day-to-day work, which basically includes, after every weekly sampling, that they are responsible for the data entry, and they then send me and the team the data sheets, so we are able to remotely monitor and then provide guidance when needed.
On this week of 13, we are doing full sampling on the experiment, where we want to reduce the number of fish in each hopper from 100 to 18 pieces. That is a stocking rate of 3 fish per meter square. We have 48 hoppers that we want to work on in this complete sampling, and it will take us 2.5 days to reduce all the 48 hoppers. The process is a bit tedious, so we are using the interns. We have a staff from World Fish Center who is guiding us, and it involves physical counting of all the hundreds, and we weigh weight and their standard length, and we do record. Then we randomly select 18 pieces and restock in each hopper. Then we continue with the feeding. We are also going to change the feeding regime. Initially, we've been feeding the fish on starter feeds, but after this complete sampling and reducing the number of fish, we are going to feed them with the grower fish. Then perhaps we can complete the experiment and draw up some conclusions.
On growth performance, we can say the fish are really growing well. The initial stocking was 1.1 gram, and now the fish are 300 average grams, the highest, with the lowest 30 grams.
I've seen it's very, very important for the farmer to choose the right strain and also to choose the right feed if they are to get something out of fish farming. Ideally, there are conclusions that I've seen and which are going to be helpful to the farmer. They have to choose the right seed from the right hatchery, and then the right seed, the right feed also, which are going to make them grow fish to the right size, which is market attractive. As the program say, it should be market-led, and actually that is true. I've seen here.
Hapa awali tulikuwa hatupati chakula, tulikuwa tunatumia hizi chakula za local, lakini sasa hii kutoka kulingana na Farm Africa wameleta wataalamu ambao wanatengeneza chakula ya samaki. Sasa tunaweza kupata samaki, tununue chakula, tulishe samaki ili tupate grams zile ambazo zinaweza kutupatia pesa.
Feed versus strain trial experiment was basically to try out different combinations of feeds and strains of fish that are used in western and central regions. The experiment was set up in Kibos Fish Farm, that is for the western, where the temperature is high, and the same was replicated at Karatina University in Central, where the temperature was low. 3 different strains of Oreochromis niloticus, that is tilapia Nile perch, was used, and also 4 different feeds from the regions were used. The experiment, as we have learned a lot from the experiment, briefly from the experiment we have realized that temperature had a serious effect on the growth. For example, compared Central and Nyanza, in Central the growth rate was very slow. The biggest fish there was hardly 200 grams, while when we come to Kisumu, which has a very high temperature, the biggest fish was almost 600 grams. So there were other variations. The cost of productions were also varied, and also the food conversion ratios for the different feeds that were used were also different. So from the experiment, we've learned that if you are investing in fish farming in Central, you have to pay attention to the size of fingerling you're starting with, because the fingerlings that were very small resulted into not so good results. And in the western side, where the temperature is almost optimum, the message to the farmers is that the type of feeds that one uses is very important.